The first sound anyone heard was the sharp hiss of air escaping, thin and angry, cutting through the heavy silence of the hangar. It echoed off steel walls and glass panels, a reminder that something had gone very wrong and was still getting worse by the second. Emergency lights washed everything in pulsing red, turning faces into masks of fear and disbelief. In the middle of it all stood the woman everyone in the world seemed to recognize, the CEO whose name moved markets with a single sentence, now pale, trembling, and very human. "Please, don't make me undress," she said again, quieter this time, as if hoping the words would disappear before anyone else could hear them. Her voice wasn't the commanding tone investors feared or the polished calm she wore on magazine covers. It was raw, cracked, and edged with panic. She clutched the front of her tailored jacket like it was armor, knuckles white, breathing shallow and uneven. Around her, assistants, security staff, and flight crew froze in place. No one had ever heard her beg before. Across from her stood a man who didn't look impressed, intimidated, or even surprised. He was tall but unremarkable, dressed in a plain dark jacket that had seen better days. His face was lined in a way that didn't come from age so much as responsibility, early mornings, late nights, and years of putting others first. His eyes were steady, almost cold, not cruel but controlled, as if emotions were something he kept locked away for emergencies only. A single dad, people would later whisper. A nobody, some would say. The only one in the room who didn't see a billionaire, but a situation spiraling out of control. "Ma'am," he said evenly, raising his voice just enough to be heard over the alarms. "We don't have time for this." That was when the room truly went silent. The jet behind them sat at an awkward angle, one wing scorched, the other sagging unnaturally. Smoke still curled from the rear, carrying the bitter smell of burned fuel and metal. The emergency landing had been violent, unexpected, and far too close to disaster. They were lucky to be alive. Luck, however, was thinning fast. She shook her head, eyes glossy as she glanced at the people watching her. Board members, staff, strangers. Her reputation, her image, her carefully constructed distance from weakness, all of it felt like it was crumbling at once. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I can't. Not here. Not like this." He took one step closer, boots crunching against debris on the floor. The movement was small, but it drew every eye in the hangar to him. Somewhere, a siren wailed louder, as if echoing the urgency in his chest. "I understand exactly what's happening," he replied. "And I understand what happens if we wait." She swallowed hard, her hand trembling as she pressed it against her side. The gesture was quick, almost unconscious, but he saw it. He always saw things like that. Years of experience had trained his eyes to catch what others missed. The way someone favors one side, the rhythm of their breath, the subtle signs that the body is losing a battle it can't afford to lose. A bead of sweat rolled down her temple, despite the cold air rushing through the damaged structure. Her lips parted as if to argue again, but no words came out. Pain flickered across her face before she smoothed it away, instinctively trying to reclaim control. "This is a misunderstanding," one of her aides finally said, stepping forward nervously. "We can wait for medical professionals. She's fine." The man turned his head slowly, his gaze sharp enough to make the aide stop mid-sentence. "No," he said. "She's not." That single sentence landed heavier than the crash itself. She looked at him then, really looked at him, as if seeing him for the first time. Not just a stranger, not just a man in the wrong place, but someone who wasn't guessing. Someone who knew. Fear flashed in her eyes, not of exposure, but of being seen too clearly. Her breath hitched. "You don't get to decide this," she said, though the strength in her voice was fading. "You don't get to." "I don't want to decide anything," he interrupted, softer now, but no less firm. "I want you alive." Those words cut through the noise in a way nothing else had. For a brief moment, the alarms, the smoke, the staring faces all seemed to fade. There was just the two of them, locked in a tense standoff between pride and survival. She had negotiated billion-dollar deals without flinching, stared down hostile takeovers, and outmaneuvered people who thought they owned the world. Yet here she was, terrified of what would happen if she let her guard down for even a second. Her eyes flicked to the people around them again. "Everyone will see," she whispered. "They'll know. They already know something's wrong," he said. "They're just pretending not to." Another sharp hiss of air sounded from the jet, followed by a dull thud as a piece of metal shifted. The building groaned, reminding them all that the situation was far from stable. She closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them, there were tears clinging to her lashes. Not falling, she was still fighting that, but close. "I built everything by never letting anyone see me weak," she said, more to herself than to him. "If I let this happen, then you'll still be alive to build more," he replied. "If you don't, none of that matters." His voice didn't rise. He didn't threaten or plead. He stated facts the way gravity states itself, unmovable, indifferent to pride. Her shoulders sagged slightly, just a fraction, but it was enough for him to know the truth. She was losing strength. Whatever she was hiding beneath that expensive suit was costing her more by the minute. "Please," she said one last time, her voice barely audible now. "Just give me a moment." He hesitated then, not because he doubted what needed to be done, but because he recognized that look. He had seen it before in different eyes, in different places. The look of someone who had spent their entire life holding themselves together, and was finally on the edge of falling apart. For a split second, another image flashed through his mind, a small apartment, a child asleep on a couch, a promise he had made long ago to always do the right thing, even when it hurt. The moment passed. "We don't have a moment," he said quietly. "And I won't apologize for that." The red lights continued to pulse. The world seemed to hold its breath. And in that fragile pause, with her fear laid bare and his resolve unshaken, it became clear to everyone watching that whatever happened next would change more than just the outcome of a crash.